Welcome to ForexTV.com. Today is Tuesday, January 20th. I'm Kathleen Reddington with your New York Forex Market Buzz. The pound makes a major fall to the yen. And now for a look at the latest headlines from the CP News Desk. Before hundreds of thousands of spectators in Washington, D.C., Barack Obama was sworn in as the 44th President of the United States. And citing worsening economic conditions at home and abroad, the Bank of Canada sliced its key lending rate to a record low 1% this morning. They also held out the possibility of taking the rate down further in the weeks ahead. UK inflation came to 3.1% in the 12 months to December. This was down from November's 4.1% rate, but higher than the expected 2.6% rate. However, core inflation surprised to the downside, coming in at 1.1% year over year. Today we are joined by Brian Dolan of Gain Capital. Hi Brian, how are you today?
Good afternoon, Kathleen. I'm fine.
All right, so everyone has been caught up in the inaugural events over the last couple hours, and they've just concluded here in the United States. But equities are falling, so I want to know what's pushing equities lower.
Well, there's just a pretty grim mood out there, and the change of administration is not sufficient to wipe out the economic realities. So the banking sector in particular globally is in dire straits, and further bailouts are being put forth, obviously in the UK, and then also being talked about in the Netherlands and Belgium. So this is not strictly confined to the U.S., but the U.S. has its own set of banking problems. But overall, I think it's this grim sentiment that nothing positive is going to materialize anytime in the near future that's ultimately weighing on shares.
All right, and obviously it's a big day in the United States. I want to know what your dollar strategy is for today, and are we seeing a thinner liquidity because of the events?
I think there was a little bit of pullback from trading as traders turned their eyes to watch the inauguration events. But in terms of the U.S. dollar outlook, what I'm focusing on is a continued safe haven bid for the U.S. dollar. We have entered into an era now of primarily capital preservation. Risk appetites remain non-existent, and so this tends to hurt the euro, sterling, and the other currencies to a greater extent than it does the U.S. dollar. Also, clearly we are looking at some significant technical breaks lower in the British pound. We're now at within striking distance of the lows seen back in 2001, and the euro also with a significant break under the 129.5 to 130 area. So I'm looking at this as the beginning of a further leg higher for the U.S. dollar and a further leg down for the pound and the euro.
All right, and you touched on the sterling. The sterling had its biggest drop since 2001, also on the yen, and it's also seeing big declines on the euro. I want to know what you think is moving sterling and your sterling yen strategy for today.
Well, what's moving sterling is a crisis of confidence that basically the UK banking sector is insolvent and on the verge of being nationalized by the government there. And when you get into, and if you put this in 2-day perspective here, the pound is down over 10 cents roughly in the last 48 hours, or basically since the start of this week. So the strategy in sterling yen is to keep selling it, even though we are at all-time lows. Basically looking for to sell on any kind of a short covering bounce. And while the pound is under the basically 140 to 141, the path lower to certainly down in the next stopping level, I should say, is the low seen in 2001, and that was at about 136.80. So that whole 137 to 136.80 is your next trigger point to further weakness in the pound, but we can easily see something back down into the 120s for the sterling.
All right, Brian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kathleen.
This has been your New York Forex Market Buzz with Brian Dolan of Gain Capital. I'm Kathleen Reddington. Join us later this afternoon, 4 p.m. exchange, right here on ForexTV.com.